Note that EFT provides impressive results for most people, but there is no guarantee it will achieve your goals or be as painless as it is for others. Please consult your physician and therapist regarding your use of EFT. Practitioners and the public must take complete responsibility for their use of it. Also know that the version of EFT you see on this site is my interpretation of the technique, which may not be exact to the original version, and I am not representing the EFT material on this site as the original teachings. The basic EFT recipe is a 4-part process. The first part is the setup phrase, designed to eliminate a psychological reversal when it is present. A psychological reversal, or PR, exists when we have a thought of doing something like losing weight, but because of hidden things like limiting beliefs and emotional blocks, our flow of energy gets going the wrong way. Meaning, we say we want one thing, but our vibration, which is based off our deep-seated beliefs, is offering something different. The energy polarities are somehow reversed when these thoughts are present, consciously or unconsciously. To see if someone is reversed, you can do a muscle test while that person states the goal either in mind or out loud. For example, if the individual being tested has a goal of losing weight, you may have her state, "I want to be leaner," and then immediately do a muscle test. If the muscle goes weak, then she does not want to lose weight, usually on some unconscious level. The statement is false in her energy system and she is reversed. If the muscle stays strong, then she is in line with her desire. It may seem odd that a person would go weak when she is claiming the intent of changing her body, but there may be hidden sabotaging beliefs or emotional blocks standing in her way. It just goes to show that what we say and what we emanate vibrationally can be two very different things. It is often the practiced belief of not being able to lose weight, or any limiting beliefs like that, or an emotional block from something stemming from someone's past that has caused their energy system to become reversed around this subject. It very well might be that their weight serves them emotionally and losing it would be a threat to their security. It is like reversing the batteries in remote control. You want to change the channel, but because the polarities of the batteries are not aligned properly, the process of changing the channel does not work. This is one huge reason why so many people try to change something but never really follow through. Even if muscle testing is not available, you can perform a PR reversal using the setup process to eliminate the possibility of something being reversed, as well as to set up the intention of the work to be done. I look at the setup phase as 2 parts. One part is the negative part, or the issue, which consists of the subject, the thoughts about the subject, and the emotional standpoint. The other part is the positive part, the affirmation. The setup phrase is repeated while rubbing a specific spot on your chest, which will be a neurolymphatic massage point. There is also another spot that also works as an alternative spot that will be described in more detail later. Focusing on the issue, the negative part, and the affirmation, the positive part, while rubbing this neurolymphatic spot seems to reset the proper flow of energy, almost like switching the batteries back to the right connections. The second step, which will also be repeated after the third step, is the actual tapping on the designated meridian points. You will have a reminder phrase, which is a derivative of the negative part of the setup phrase, which will be repeated while tapping throughout the entire step. The third step is called the 9-gamut procedure. This process involves brain activities to get the brain in tune while tapping on a designated meridian point. The fourth step is simply a repeat of step 2. Here's the basic example of the EFT process. In this example, we will use a physical issue, limited breathing, to demonstrate the EFT process. The reason we will start with a physical problem rather than an emotional one is because it's much easier to work on something less emotional when first starting to learn the EFT process. The interesting thing about any physical issue is that it is intrinsically linked to your energy system through your meridians, and your meridians are affected by your thoughts. Working on a physical issue via the thought system and energy system is like going through the back door. Not to mention, any physical issue always has some basis of emotional unrest underneath it. Be aware that often working on a physical issue without addressing the underlying emotional issue will offer only short-term results. That is not to say that long-term success can't be achieved in this way, as there are many cases where it does work to address only the physical issue. The purpose of using the limited breathing here is purely for practice. It seems to be the most common physical limitation, as well as the easiest to shift using this process. When working on any issue, it is important to gauge your level of emotional or physical discomfort. You can rate your discomfort on a 0 to 10 scale, usually making 10 the highest level of discomfort. To gauge your breathing, try to take as full of a breath as possible. You will more than likely notice it is not a full breath. Very few people have a complete full breath. Rate your breath on a 0 to 10 scale. In this case, let 0 be no breath, let's hope that's not the case, and 10 being the fullest, easiest breath possible. If you don't have limited breathing, you could use a food craving for this practice round. Note that, again, dealing with a physical issue like food craving will only treat the surface aspects of the issue. This is because there are deeper emotional ties to why you crave this item, and not all are bad. Using EFT anytime you have food cravings should initially help you control your food intake, but at some point you would want to address the underlying reason for reaching for the food to feel better. Much of this will be covered later. To use a food craving for practice here, simply find some food that you crave. Smell the food to increase your craving. Get your craving for the piece of food as high as possible, without actually eating the food. A 10 here would be the highest craving. You can also use this with your breathing, taking a full breath. To start with the setup phrase, we must first find the neurolymphatic point located on the chest. It is located toward the middle and about 1 inch under the collarbone. Using your dominant hand, take your first 3 fingers and dig around the aforementioned chest area until you feel a sore spot. Note, it does not really matter which hand you use or which side of the chest you rub. Once you find the sore spot, continue rubbing on it while saying the setup phrase. The basic phrase that can be used is, even though I have this issue, I completely love and accept myself. Describing the issue could be this restricted breathing or this limited breathing or this food craving. Repeat this aloud, if possible, 3 times. Using our example, we will say, even though I have restricted breathing, I completely love and accept myself, or I deeply and profound and accept myself. Saying this phrase out loud emphatically will help make sure the reversing of the PR works. Remember, gauging how high the emotional charge is on any subject before you start the process is key in helping you to gauge your progress. You can also use the karate chop point as an alternative spot to tap during your setup instead of rubbing the chest spot. Try using both spots to see which one works better for you. Next, in the second part, you will start tapping on meridian points while saying the reminder phrase. For example, this restricted breathing. You will begin with the eyebrow point, which is at the end of the inside of the eyebrow. You want to hit this point 7 to 10 times using your index and middle fingers, but hitting it continuously while saying the issue phrase will most likely add up to enough anyway, so there's no need to count. You do not have to tap on these points hard. A light tapping will work just fine. Once you tapped on the first point 7 times, you will tap on the point located next to the eye on the outside of your eye socket, while, once again, repeating the reminder phrase. Follow that by tapping the point under the eye, in the middle, just below the eye, about a ½ inch under the rim of the eye socket, then under the nose, between the nose and the upper lip, under the lip, between the chin and the lower lip, below the collarbone where the collarbone meets the sternum. Continue to the point under the armpit, about 2 to 3 inches below the actual armpit, about nipple or bra strap height. And then on all the sides of all the fingers, including the side of the thumb, at the height of the fingernail. You do all these except for the ring finger. You want to hit all the fingers on the side of the finger that faces you. The last spot is to hit is the karate chop point, which is on the side of the hand between the bottom of the pinky and the wrist bone. Remember, every spot you hit, you will want to repeat the reminder phrase. You do not have to stick to one side, and it does not really matter which side you start on. Since you can do the tapping on both sides, you could do the second round of tapping, which is step 4, with the opposite hand and hit all the opposite points of those you hit before. The great thing about EFT is that it is very forgiving. Next, we'll move on to step 3, the 9-gamut procedure. While tapping on the back of the hand between the pinky and the ring finger, do these 9 exercises. Close your eyes, open your eyes, look hard down to the right, hard down to the left, roll your eyes up and over to the right, up and over to the left, hum a few bars of Happy Birthday, or another easily hummed tune. Count from 1 to 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hum Happy Birthday again. This process may seem a bit silly, but I assure you it is designed to get your brain involved, not to make you look or feel ridiculous. You don't have to do any of these steps really slowly, just enough to get that part of your brain processing the new exercise. If possible, keep the reminder phrase in the back of your mind while going through the 9-gamut procedure. Once you have completed the 9-gamut procedure, you move back to the tapping on the meridian points from inside the eyebrow point down to the karate chop point while saying the same reminder phrase as before. You have completed your first round of EFT. Take stock of how you feel about your breathing. Is it still at the same number? Has it changed? If it hasn't changed, try saying the setup phrase more emphatically, then add, even though I still have this restricted breathing, I truly love and accept myself. You can also use this setup phrase if your breathing has improved but is still limited. You then will use this remaining restricted breathing while going through the process, just like the first round.